And then he went dark. No.
He did. Later on, he went dark. Why? He made his first kill. When he did that, he said no more killing. Ever.
Batman who just doesn't off the bat. Pun intended.
Same thing. He was very simplistic. Never had a companion. Then all of a sudden, a little bit later, he has a companion.
Well, yeah, the times necessitated a psychic. But the thing about Batman, the thing about Batman that makes him so fascinating is Batman's entire world is
dark.
It's not just dark. It's a representation of his own psyche when you think about it.
Right.
All of his villains are representations of his own psyche. He's essentially fighting himself. And that's amazing. That's brilliant. That's something that you would never see. And that's what makes him such a good, nuanced character.
Spider-Man is the exact same.
Oh, yeah.
And done
Marvel
just
does
off of Stan Lee. Same thing with the artistic style. The artist creates a vision of him. Same thing with this.
You know who also does a lot of that? Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes.
Creates his own world, creates the rules for his world, creates the characters for his world, then he tells his story once his world makes sense.
Exactly.
But did you know that Hayao Miyazaki one time worked for Toei Studios?
Yep.
And now,
He worked on
Ghibli
Wolf Boy Ken in 63.
goes with Disney, so yeah.
He got his start at Toei Doga.
But doesn't all artistic value, under any and all circumstances, never stays the same? Ever.
No.
Well,
If you are a good artist, you can't. Why? You are going to develop. No matter if you develop your own style like Rembrandt did, even he changed.
But I mean, then look at the stuff that Miyazaki's put out in the last few years. With all due respect, it's kind of stagnated. His material, his more recent movies are not as special as his older ones. Then look at the stuff that Makoto Shinkai and Mamoru Hosoda are putting out, and you're like, holy crap! Because even Miyazaki at one point, he was revolutionary, he was groundbreaking, and then he did Mononoke, and then he should have stopped. Okay,
No, I don't believe
he
that.
did Spirited Away, and it was great, but after that, it was a crapshoot. I did not like Howl's Moving Castle, and Ponyo was a little weak.
Ponyo was a little weak, but in the same instance, as older as he gets, he wants to see the world actually change. Not go to the dark side, but actually start getting more light.
Right.
That's what Spirited Away was all about. It was a transition.
He's always wanted the world to have more light, always, from the beginning. But it's like, in the beginning, he wasn't afraid to say, the world sucks, humanity sucks, and whatever. In his most recent films, he's become more of a Disney-fied version of himself, where he doesn't want to talk about the negative stuff. Where's the guy who...
He doesn't want to, because he thinks that...
Mononoke, he just stopped doing it.
He thinks that if you talk about it, people glamorize it. And because they glamorize it, he's like, you know what? We can have tragedy without the glamorization of tragedy.
Well, quite unfortunately, you started to stagnate, so...
With Ponyo, though, that's what happens. There is horror, there is a
He did a better
devastation,
job of the
but
Little
you
Mermaid
don't
than Disney did.
you don't glamorize it.
Oh my God.
And you don't stay put on it. And so look at the old people. They are old. They are hurting. They are at the end of their life. But he literally sits there and says, even at the end of your life, you can still dance. Even at the end of your life, you can still have fun. You can still see that there is no dark end at the tunnel. There is light at the tunnel. There is a never-ending story to be had.
I have to agree with you on that, because even with Hakasai, he was up in his 90s, and he wanted to live 5 more years. If he did, he felt like he became a professional, painter, like let's say Picasso, or and maybe even Rembrandt. But unfortunately, time went. Also, too, Hakasai was also too a Buddhist. And I should bring that up a little bit. He was the Buddhist faith. During his time, you have to understand, he wasn't a rich person. What happened was he had gotten very well off when he was in his 50s, but his son or his grandson went and splurged his fortune, so he had to go back to work. And so he worked up until he was in his, till he died until he was 90.
But see, the same thing will happen with him also, though.
Yeah.
Not very rich off of the artist style, not very rich in the line of what you're doing, not very rich in the line of what you're trying to create or what you're trying to say. But in the same instance, still publicized to this day and still trying to be sought after.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, is being a legend.
Yeah.
Of trying to say, look at me, not so much as look at what I'm saying.
Right.
And there's the problem. What are they saying versus is it more about what I'm saying, or is it about more look at me? Which is it?
More of what you're saying, probably, because you're
Should it?
What you're saying should at least have some kind of merit.
It should.
Yeah.
But then look at Miyazaki if you're going to do that then. What is he saying? Look at the light? I don't know. Because of the fact being, he glamorized more of the tragedy than he did looking at the light by the end of the story.
Wanted animation to soothe the soul and make it, and his own words were like, blur the sharp edges of reality, smooth the soul, and make you feel better. So that's always been his mission. And then you've got those years where he just said, F all humanity. Like his first few years.
Exactly. So what is he trying to say?
It's called having a nervous breakdown.
Irony? Is it irony?
Yeah.
I don't think it's irony. I think he literally had a crisis of faith and he had to work his way through it. I mean, that's what I've always posited Nausicaa as being. Him working his way through a midlife crisis, to a crisis of faith.
I could actually believe that. Why? Rembrandt.
Yep.
Worked for the church, didn't believe the church, believed on the church, but then didn't believe what the church was doing.
What's Nausicaa? Nausicaa is him from 1982 to 1993 or 94, working on this and having his entire life change. And then you read the manga, look at the films he's doing, you see a guy who's changing.
And then you want to sit here and say, look at Edgar Allan Poe, look how great he is, look at Picasso, look at how they are and how great they are. But in the same instance, they're all insane.
It must come from the dark side of life.
H.P. Lovecraft, insane.
Now I have a question for you. What does this have to do with Hokusai?
Yeah.
Same thing.
We got
Artistry.
this lovely conversation
They
about
must have had a dark side of. They must have had something happen to them in their lives that made them went dark, and then change.
Or is it the art itself turning them dark?
Well, I can say
And
this.
then they're trying to find salvation in the art.
I can say this for Hokusai. Yes, he went through tragedy, having his savings blown away, but, he saw himself as being a madman who loved to draw. He loved his artwork. He wanted to
So
draw.
was his salvation his art?
Yeah.
Yes, I would have to say part of it is the salvation of his art, but also to reinventing yourself, because Hokusai had several different aliases, different names.
And dreaming of a better you.
Or maybe dreaming of, a golden age, or what we all like in life. We want to see a better world.
But then that makes you really wonder about Edgar Allan Poe. What he...
No, Edgar Allan Poe was hyped up on drugs and booze. He wasn't looking for a better life. He was wallowing in his own self-pity.
But then what does that say about Miyazaki then?
Miyazaki's not wallowing in his own self-pity. Miyazaki had a crisis of faith because he was a socialist who realized the world sucked and wanted to do something about it, so he made Nausicaa to show the world that we all suck, and then realized, oh my god, nothing makes sense, and he had a nervous breakdown and wrote Totoro.
But how can you go from Totoro, and this is a big one, how do you go from Totoro to Howl's Moving Castle?
So, okay, Totoro is childhood, Kiki is adolescence, Porco Rosso is the autobiography, Whisper of the Heart was a revisiting to adolescence, So Was Only Yesterday, followed by remaking his first film with Princess Mononoke. Then he said, screw this, I have already done what I want to do about my own life, let's talk about yokai, and then let's do something with Diane Wynne Jones. Why? Because I think I like the story, but I'm going to Peter Jackson it.
Sort of.
He Peter Jacksoned that.
But here's the thing. Did he give away who he was for the money? Or did he try to make it to where he tried to say and try and make amends to himself and try and find himself?
He does whatever he wants when it comes to film, and his 21st century films are him making movies that he wants to make. He has nothing more to say with a social context. It's all about what makes me happy.
But in the same instance, couldn't the exact same thing?
What?
Couldn't?
When they moved back followers?
He did not make that.
No, he didn't.
Ariete was not him at all.
No, it wasn't.
It was
no.
totally Disney.
It was
No.
Ghibli, but
Yes.
he didn't do it. Arrietty was like Ocean Waves. Ghibli's got a lot more than just Miyazaki films.
Right.
And with Arrietty, he was a producer and he did some storyboard work, but that was not his baby.
No.
The last things he did was he went from Ponyo to From Up on Poppy Hill to The Wind Rises.
And I will say this much: Poppy Hill.
Excuse me, but isn't Poppy
No.
Hill supposed to be Goto?
Both of them. Hayao did the storyboards, the screenplay, and half the directing, and Goro did the film, the cinematic directing. It was their reconciliation for the colossal fiasco.
Okay.
And it was a fiasco. There's no way around that. That was a fiasco.
I liked the movie.
Yes,
It
was a good movie, but it was a fiasco.
Goro and him got into a fight over Earthsea, and
Yes,
Poppy Hill was the reconciliation.
Well, what I heard about the argument during Earthsea, but I always thought that argument was overdrawn a bit.
No.
I mean,
No, it wasn't.
No, it was not.
They hated each other.
They would not talk to each other for like 2 years.
Yes.
And
Oh,
then
that's
and then
sad.
later it was like olive
Father
branch
and
of
son.
animation.
Yes.
father and son.
And the thing, and that storyline was literally made for them.
Poppy
That
Hill
whole
was perfect.
storyline was made for
Hayao
them.
Miyazaki picked Poppy Hill for the story because he's like, this is about father and son, parents and
Yep,
legacy
yep,
and working
yep.
together. And this time, Goro Miyazaki listened. He listened. His ambition was great, but it was still held in check by listening to his father.
And see, that's what I don't get. Doesn't that put a leash on our art? Does artists in general need a leash?
No. They need more freedom.
They'll eventually need a leash. Like in the beginning, you don't really need. You need to have a mentor for your first project. You need to do whatever you want for your second and third. And by that point, then you start needing leashes. Then you got to start asking yourself, how far can I go before it becomes too much?
And I can say this to that: Thomas Jefferson.
Even
Number one on that list. They need some sort of a leash because he was a great diplomat. He really was. But look who he was talking to. He was talking to the French. Were the French actually going to listen to the plight of the Americans?
No.
They did through the artwork. The people listened. The people wanted to help America. But the politicians themselves didn't give a rat's butt about helping them until it came to the fact being they could actually make a profit.
Isn't it the same way today with politics?
And also in the art world. Because artistry, bar none, if you want to make money, out of your artistry, out of anything whatsoever, J.K. Rowling's #1 in my book.
Right.
Why? She had a fantastic story, but to make any money at it, she had to sacrifice it.
Well, we have to end right now because we did make a promise to try to
End a little early.
to end a little early, so the people here who's supposed to come in at 5 o'clock will have.
5 more minutes. It's me.
Okay, sure.
You guys want to keep going? You have 5 more minutes.
No.
No, we need to at least break down, for the next person and everything. So thank you for coming to this panel,
Well-
and hope you had a great time. And please come to his panel, which will be at
7 o'clock. It'll be Detective Conan murder panel. And yes, the audience will have to solve it. I am not there to solve it. Y'all will have to. And somebody could die.